Hello Idle Hero fans, thanks for tuning in today as I'm going to be revisiting a video that I did in the past where I looked at the top 5 heroes for the arena, which ones were most popular amongst the top 20 players. And I wanted to do this one again because it's been a long time since I did the last one and I knew a few things had changed. But one of the funnier things I didn't realize was actually like how much things had changed, or I guess how long it had been since I did one of these videos, because things like Bloodblade back then were actually pretty popular. There were, I think, 11 Bloodblades on the top 20 back when I did my first video, and these days there, I think, where there was one Bloodblade, or there actually might have been 0. Let me see. No, there was none. Yeah, there was absolutely none. There was actually more Walters than Bloodblades, which was kind of surprising. Not that I figured Bloodblade would be more popular, but I didn't expect to see Walter there either. And I'll start this one off by kind of looking at the biggest loser compared to the last time, and that would definitely be Rosa. Rosa was actually number 1 on my previous list when I did the top 5, and he actually he's not even close now. I think there was 2 or 3 Rosas in the top 20. I think there was one in 21st spot at the time of making this, so like you could maybe say the 3 of them all together. But he went from the most popular hero in the top 5 to not even really on the list. So Rosa has really taken a dip in the meta, and if you're someone like me who ended up getting a ton of these guys, that is extremely unfortunate. But I guess that's just the way the meta is going to progress. You're going to see some tendencies, like heroes that were really strong at one point, but then a weakness either becomes exposed or new heroes come out that completely invalidate them, thus dropping them off. But let's get started and look at the list. And number 5 was actually Cruz, and this one was again a little bit under expected too, because I thought he would have been higher than this, but it seems like Cruz actually isn't being adapted into a lot of teams. And not only that, but the ones that are tend to be 10-star Cruz, which it kind of goes against the popular consensus that you want to keep him at 9-star. So the people who are having the most success with Cruz actually fully commit to the 10-star, I guess because they probably want to ensure that they can get this ability off, because maybe that's been downplayed a little bit. Of course, everyone knows how strong his 4th or 3rd passive here is, where he has that stun chance. Everyone knows that's super useful, but I think a lot of people have been disregarding how strong his ability is. And while most people do understand that it's strong, I guess they're not putting enough emphasis into the fact that if he is a 9-star at level 100, that he might die before he even gets to use his ability, and that could be very problematic if you want to use that as a damage boost for something like Asmodel or Vesa. And that's, I guess, is probably the biggest reason why people are pushing to the 10-star instead, because you still will most likely get a good use of his passive, which stuns. Even if he's at a 10-star, it's less likely to happen earlier in the fight. However, you're still going to be able to take a good advantage out of it, whereas if you don't get this ability off, that may be more detrimental than it seems, and more people are committing to the 10-star for that reason. The number 4th spot, or number 4 spot, number 4th, is Emily. And again, this is actually someone, I thought she was going to be closer to the number 2, but it seems like people are not quite using her as much as they used to be. She might be kind of the next Rosa moving forward, where as time goes on, you're going to start seeing less and less of her. She is still very powerful, of course, looking at her ability to increase the attack on your allies and increase their speed. I think the speed is probably the biggest one right now, because if you can get your units to get their abilities off first, that's very important. And then when she dies, they also get an incredible 29% attack bonus, and then your opponents lose 29% armor, so she has a lot of damage amplification in her kit. Of course, the 20% hit is also valuable, especially if you're facing against someone who has any type of dodge based on their guild tree, so like warriors, for example. I think rangers do as well. So she can help in smaller ways, but I think she might be suffering the same fate as Rosa, where she's going to start falling off and you're going to start seeing less of her. And even with the fact that she was in 4th place, a lot of that came down to the fact that some people who were running Emily were actually running 2 of her. And I think there were 2 or 3 teams when I evaluated them that had multiple multiple Emilys on their team, which kind of inflates her numbers a little bit, making her seem more popular than she really is, whereas it's mostly just a few players who have put a lot of emphasis into using her specifically to amp up their team, because these buffs do stack. So you're going to get the 40% hit, 40% attack, and then you're going to end up with the 58% attack boost when she dies, or when she gets below 50% health, and the armor, etc., etc. So doubling those bonuses do help, and if you're going for the aura that has 2 fortress or 3 fortress heroes in it, then you you do have a bit of wiggle room to put her in there, and I guess that does make sense, but I might want to watch out for her in the next few months and see if more or less people end up picking her up, because that trajectory is probably going to determine whether or not you'd want to invest in one in the first place. We have at third place, we actually have Michelle. Michelle has been popular even from the last time. She was just on the cusp of making the top 5, but didn't quite make it. She actually got edged out by Sigmund by 1 point. So as Sigmund has fallen off, Michelle has obviously risen in that instead when it comes to PvP, especially since now you have a lot more people are aiming towards the good versus evil teams, which boosts her value up tremendously. And even if you're not going for good versus evil, you're probably going to have an aura that has 2 light, 2 forest, and 2 fortress, and she fits in there very well. Especially since if you calculate how many times she's been available from events or from like the altar shop, I think you could have gotten 3 Michelle that way, which means all you really would have had to have gotten was 2 natural Michelles from the altar or from the summoning altar, or from the tree, which means that she's just much more readily available than something like a Faithblade would have been. But she's still super strong, and the fact that she has stuns on her kit, she has heals on her kit, as well as a ton of HP, she can effectively last for a very long time in fights. And as the video I made about her specifically states, she kind of has no real weaknesses. Her speed is really high, her HP is really high. The only thing that would be a slight on her would be her damage, but because she does so much other stuff and facilitates other units to do damage, it really doesn't come across as a major weakness. So Michelle is very highly coveted right now in the current meta, and if you have the ability to make one, I definitely would do so. Number 2 is going to be Demon Hunter, and Demon Hunter also has the same kind of thing that Emily has going for her, where people who run Demon Hunter sometimes run 2 of them on their team because her speed and crowd control allows her to really shut down a team entirely just by herself. And with the more recent buffs that she's had put on her, her damage is also very high now. People are starting to get more use out of this Humiliate passive because the rounds are going so fast. If on second and third turn you've killed 2 or 3 of your opponent's heroes with some like one-shot capacity, then you're going to see units like Demon Hunter pick up with these scaling passives. So she's going to end up with like 30%, 45% attack, 40 to 60% crit damage, and she can actually do a ton of damage as well, while simultaneously being incredibly good as a crowd control unit. So she covers a lot of different areas, and she is super popular right now. I think I was looking at 14 to 15 Demon Hunters were in the top 20 at the time. Of course, the top 20 does change. That's why I'm putting a little bit of variance on these numbers, because those guys who do consist of the top are usually moving around a little bit. So, but on average, you're going to see, like I said, about 13 to 14 different Demon Hunters, but maybe not 13 to 14 teams with Demon Hunter, because some of them do run multiple. And it seems like a lot of these heroes that are in this top 20 do happen to have kind of like synergy with themselves. So 2 Demon Hunters gives a ton of crowd control, 2 Emilys gives a ton of buffs, and things like that, and people are trying to take advantage of it that way. And the number 1 hero, probably to no surprise, is Faithblade. Faithblade is currently running away with the PvP meta. He dominates pretty much everybody and has no traditional weaknesses. His HP would normally be seen as a weakness, but even compared to some of the other units in this list, he's not that soft. And when he does have lower HP than his opponents, he has like chance for extra damage, and he just does so much work. Like there's no real bad scenario for Faithblade, and with his speed being so astronomically high compared to everybody else, he's not really going to get one shot anyway. He's almost always going to go first. He can't be stunned, and he has incredible amount of damage. His speed, again, the 60% or 60 speed that he gets from this passive is what makes him so ridiculous. 70% holy damage. There's just so much going on here. And the numbers for Faithblade in the top 20 were actually ridiculous. There were a total of 21 Faithblades in the top 20 at the time. So literally every team could have a Faithblade, and one team could have an additional one. And I'm pretty sure we all know whose team that was who had 2 Faithblades. But if you're in the top 20, you need Faithblade. That's pretty much the way this has gone. So this is one of the things I see when people talk about how like Cruz kind of screws up the meta. I think that Cruz's impact on the meta is so much lesser than Faithblade's. Faithblade's impact is way more substantial and way more problematic for this current game right now. He needs to be tuned down. I don't know if the devs will do it, and Meh has specifically said he has no interest in actually fixing the game, so I don't think that's going to happen. So if you have any way to make Faithblade right now, you have to do it. If you want to be competitive in PvP, you have to get Faithblade. Just there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Just get it done as fast as possible. So guys, tell me what you guys think. Who do you think, or who did you expect that would be in this list that wasn't? Or was there anyone who you seen that you didn't expect to be there? I think most of the heroes that we've seen were probably pretty standard, so I don't think many people were going to be taken by surprise. But if you do have an idea of something different, just let me know in the comments below. And as always, guys, have a great day.